Hey, welcome everybody to the Faith First Podcast. My name is Pastor Craig Brown. We're with First Lutheran Church in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a community of faith where we discover more together. On the podcast today, great to be back with you. For many of you, like, where did you guys go? Our distribution company, podcast.com, was having a glitch for a few weeks there and wasn't pushing our podcast out to all the various platforms we're on iTunes and Spotify and all that. So now those episodes are all there. So go back and you can listen to them over the last month. We've been cranking them out. They just haven't been necessarily reaching your ears. You can always go to our website, firstlutherancr.org, if you can't find our podcast for some reason one week. Under the Grow tab, you can find our podcast there. And then last week, we didn't have one altogether because of the weather delays and some illness going through the church. But we get through all that, so everybody's healthy again, and we're back in action. So we do have a very exciting podcast for you today. Ellen and Henry Mueller, a mother and son, who are serving on our Growing Young Task Force. Henry is a fantastic youth, a teenager in our congregation. They're both going to be talking about some initiatives for how we can grow young as a church. You want to be able to hear Henry today, but also to come and hear our youth that are making a presentation at our annual meeting at 1 o'clock this Sunday. John Lepsey is here to pray with us, and Pastor Steve is here to talk with us about the meaning of life, just that little subject. We're going to take a look at that. And we are glad you are here with us today. Also, let's go ahead and get things started. Put our faith first. And there is no pay for this whatsoever, but your reward will be great in heaven.
Oh,
so
excellent.
The benefits are out of this world, is what I think. Been using that joke for 15 years. Okay.
It still works.
Time to find out what's brewing around First Lutheran Church. And we have two of fantastic First Lutheran members here with us, the Mueller family. You guys want to introduce yourselves? Say who you are, how long you've been hanging around this place?
Yeah, so I'm Henry Mueller. I'm an 8th grader. And we've been here for
quite a bit of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm Ellen Mueller. I'm Henry's mom, and I would say probably about 10 to 12 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who's your favorite family member?
Probably my mom, because she's here right now.
Okay.
Good answer.
Yeah. So you got a brother.
Yep.
And
Sam.
Yeah, Sam. Sam Mueller.
And your dad.
Yep, and my dad.
Matthew.
Matthew,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I asked you guys to be here today because you're part of our Growing Young Task Force, which deals with one of our major initiatives of the church is to grow the church young and be intentional about listening to youth, involving youth, doing things that are youth-friendly and family-friendly so that you attract those youth and families and they want to stick around and be a part of your organization. And that's really something that the Christian church at wide has struggled with big time. I think we've been very out of touch, and and beyond what we're doing or not doing, I think the younger people go, the less interested they are in church. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what can we do to take a hard look at that and help grow that? And I think we don't have the magic bullet here at First Lutheran, but I think we are doing some things that makes you guys feel comfortable. What can you start by saying kind of what makes you feel comfortable being here at First Lutheran? What kinds of things do you do? I mean, obviously you're very active on our Wednesday nights.
Well, yeah, so on Wednesday nights, I volunteer almost every week, and it's really fun, and there's a lot of people that come. And I think lately that there have been more adults that come, and that is, one of the things that we've been talking about at this task force. And yeah, so I think that's really one of the important things is that we get more people involved.
You're talking about our 6:30 Wednesday night Echo service.
Yes.
That you've been really involved in that, Henry, and you're seeing more adults come to that, which is one of our priorities. Do you want to go ahead and read through what our recommendations? We just had a meeting here a few minutes ago, and these are hot off the press. So talk about what's brewing. This just came. Go ahead and give us our recommendations that we're going to make.
Okay, so we encourage every adult to attend one Echo worship. So that would be Wednesday 6:30. And then we'd like every adult in a leadership role in our church, the church council, various committee chairs, small group leaders, and activity coordinators to commit to coming to one echo worship and encouraging their group participants to follow their lead. And then number 2 would be to involve youth in Sunday leadership roles. So most youth come to Wednesday services, I would think. I don't know if they come
the majority.
to Sunday. Yeah, majority. So then if we could get more youth to come to Sundays, that would be good.
And I think to get the few youth that are coming on Sundays more visibly involved in leadership. That we do have some here and there, but just to strengthen that a little bit. And then the next one?
Like re-examine our process and how we get youth involved on weekend service roles and stuff for that, QR codes, youth testimonials that we can get more involved, And then number 3, prioritize multi-generational events. Have the entire congregation at regular intervals to lift something up as important for the entire church and include youth and families.
Yeah. And potlucks keep coming up. Does that surprise you, Ellen?
No, potlucks.
I mean, I know they like to eat, but what is it about church potlucks?
I'm not sure.
Usually the church brings really good food.
Okay.
Lots of desserts.
Well, I finally asked you guys, I said, okay, we need to land this ship because every week we were meeting, you guys were saying, more potlucks, more potlucks. I said, do you want to eat? Do you want a speaker? Do you want to do some sort of event? And I want to say it was Alex that said, we just want to hang out with older adults and learn life from them.
Yeah.
And that's weird to me as a 49-year-old that's unique, but that is something that you're not getting in other aspects of your life, apparently, Henry.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Kind of, yeah. There's not many adults that I don't, interact with on a daily basis. So not like my grandparents, my parents, I know them, I know their stories, I know about them. But yeah, there's not many other adults that you just meet and then they have unique stories that you just don't see.
Right. And if those stories are about faith, that could potentially help your faith life.
Yeah.
Even just having conversations with other adults and other children and other youth in the church space, I think it creates this, it's not just a place of worship, but somewhere where you can come and feel safe and be, learn lots about people.
Yeah.
A sense of community.
A sense of community.
Ellen, what strikes you about what we've been talking about? What rises to the top of your list?
Yeah, so I feel like the youth on Wednesdays are there. They're vibrant. They're having fun. They're with their people. And I want that to continue. And I want other people to see, the older generations to see that this is happening, right? Because as you say, it's not necessarily growing as much as we want it to. And how can we meet youth where they are instead of forcing these things on them, but meet them where they are and then help build that up? And all of the things that we've been talking about, I think, continues that idea of we want to just keep this church growing.
So help explain this on the most basic terms, if you could, Ellen. As a parent who's very busy on the weekend, what do you say to somebody that says, why don't you guys just come on Sundays? Why do you have to do this on Wednesday? What's your answer to that?
Well, our schedule varies so much. And what brought us to First Lutheran in the very beginning, way back 10, 12 years ago, was the Sunday service, was the music, was the people, were so welcoming. We just instantly felt at home. And then, again, people met us where we were. We had a little one. When Sam was little, it wasn't a great spot. Sam was a handful. So then for us, we came. Still is.
Even more so.
In a different way. But we came and we went, and we never felt judged by that. We were always, it's good to see you. We're happy you're here. And so now, as the boys have gotten older and more involved in things, and, I think as a society, things have shifted. And if we don't shift with it, what are we doing? Yeah. So as a church, we have shifted and we have brought up this Wednesday and then made it so that it is comfortable. And I miss Sundays. I miss coming to Sunday. When I came for confirmation several weeks ago, I was so happy to be there. And I know that time in our life is coming back. But at this moment, Wednesdays is where we are, and I feel okay with that. And I know seeing you there and seeing, Pastor Katie and Pastor Steve and feeling welcomed, even though that's not a Sunday thing, I feel it's a blessing.
Well, I think about our family. We've got active swimmers and they're Boy Scouts and they're doing camp outs and swim meets and these things now just going all weekend, dance competitions, sports competition. And it's one thing you just can't blame the parents, the participants. I mean, it's kind of everybody's fault if anyone's, it's not, fault's not the right word.
No, but it's a
kinda,
societal shift.
It's a societal shift. It's kind of everyone's responsibility where we are, but just to blame our church parents is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
We're involved in the system that is the societal shift of society. So as you said, Ellen, I think for the church to shift alongside of it makes sense to continue growing your faith. And your faith is obviously growing.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Can you give words to what God means to you in your life?
Well, I'll just say for us on Wednesdays, again, and this could be happening on Sundays too, but right now, like I said, it's happening on Wednesdays. And when we all hear the same message and Matt has started coming too, and I think that was something that we were kind of doing, and then he was, feeling not a part of it. And then he started coming and realizing he needs to hear that message too. And so for all four of us to hear that message together, we just go out of here feeling uplifted, feeling that Pastor Katie's message last week, I think, really hit home too, like how we can go out and not push our God, push our religion on other people, but we can lift them up, and we can encourage them to be better people without pushing anything on them. And I think that for us, at least, has been a great thing for Wednesdays and beyond.
So sometimes I leave Wednesday and I've had stressful weeks with school and with activities, like just packed life, And sometimes when I leave, I just feel so just better. I don't know.
Kind of unburdened.
Yeah. We don't go on Sundays very much, so I don't know what the message is on Sundays. But if that was similar, the fact that it changes me so much, I don't know.
How does it change you?
I don't know. It just like sometimes I feel like it just makes me like more of a better person.
So when we get here, it's all the weight on the shoulders from the week. And when we leave, he's taller, he's happier. He comes out of that small group with Jason and the crew smiling. Yeah. And Sam, as a fifth grader, now too, he's kind of in between the Sunday school and pre-confirmation kind of thing. And for him to have a spot on Wednesdays now too is...
Yeah. Our son is in fifth grade, too. He likes that bridge that Pastor Katie started, kind of to bridge between Sunday school and confirmation.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things is like including, so with this society shift, you got people younger people even, that don't have like time. Like it's like time is of the essence. Like you don't have time. You don't have enough time as that you want. So the fact that we're bringing people for that bridge thing, Sam, even Sam, he feels, I can tell that he feels happy about that. Like I just can tell. So is there like a Sunday school like on Wednesdays? Or
yeah, we're doing that too, Pastor Katie. So there's even littlers little ones that.
Yeah.
So you guys are here, and they'll say you have a third grader. Well, what do they do? So we just make it easy for you, and we offer that on Wednesdays as well. So we're going to take these three major recommendations to encourage every adult to come try a Sunday or Wednesday, to try to get more youth in visible leadership roles on Sunday, and to try to do more multi-generational events like those beloved potlucks and other things. We're going to take those three recommendations. We're going to send them to church council. A few people on our team are going to talk at the annual meeting about it. And then our encouragement is for you, our podcast listener, to take us up on it and see the great things that First Lutheran is doing. Don't just sit around on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning and say, where are all the kids? Come Wednesday and see 150 young people and their families, right?
Yeah.
Right? And we need to encourage our youth that this is your church. I'm so glad and proud. I'm going to speak for everybody here, Henry, that you are so articulate and you are living out your faith. We appreciate that. We hope that you're strong and brave in the school halls, too, and on the play stage, and don't let your faith just be here compartmentalized. And I see that in you. You feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like this has, like Wednesday services, everything with this church has honestly helped my confidence. Like I used to be not very confident at all, not very, wouldn't really put myself out there very much.
You're going to make your mom cry. But what's going through your heart when he says that?
Well, I see that, right? And I see that in the people that he's around. So, we live in Mount Vernon, so the kids that he's around, they don't go to school together.
Which is the case a lot with our kids.
And I think
they go to Prairie, they go to Linn-Mar, they go to Mount Vernon.
And I think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I do, because you have connections all over. You
Yeah.
have connections with kids that believe in the same things that you do and want to come together to see him and Reed joke today and Jason, to have another trusted adult that, you can go to if you need. I mean, that just...
Yeah, and
I have seen a change.
When you build those relationships with people from other schools, other areas that you don't really interact with, or in entirely that we wouldn't play them in sports or any of that. But I saw one of the people that are in my group at a basketball tournament, and I'm like, I know them. Like, do you know this guy? He's from Kennedy.
You go over and talk to him. And have a relationship. That's pretty unique.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys making a few minutes for us today and all your hard work on the Growing Young Task Force. And it's just great to see some fruit that what we're doing is working in each of you, and keep it up.
Well, and I'll just say, too, it's like you can't be everything to everyone, but I'm so grateful for you, for the church staff, to be willing to work and to put aside. I'm sure it would be great if everyone just showed up one day, but to expand that and to make everyone feel welcome, we're truly grateful for it.
You guys are welcome.
Yeah.
Well, that's a look at what's brewing around First Lutheran Church.
Well, it's time to dig into the Word. And with Pastor Craig Brown, my name is Pastor Steve. And Pastor Craig, how are you doing today?
Well, tired of the snow already.
Already? It was only one day? It's beautiful outside.
Spoken like a true Minnesotan.
I even thought it was kind of warm, and then I realized it was only 3 degrees. But it's not the cold; it's the humidity. It was a dry cold, so I just wear my Norwegian sweater, and I'm good.
It's just dealing with a lot. There's a lot of illness going around the community and the cancellations, but we're back on track. So here we are.
Yep.
Talking about the meaning of life and blessings and woes and all that good stuff.
Yes, I wonder what Jesus say, blessing to those of you who get a snowstorm, for you shall, or is that woe to you? I'm not sure if that's a blessing or a woe. So say a little bit more. What's the lesson for this Sunday?
Well, it is where Jesus talks about blessings and woes. The Beatitudes, as it's known, from Luke 6. Jesus says, "Blessed to those who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh." And it goes on to say, but woe rather to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when we all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestors did to the false prophets. So,
the gospel of the Lord.
Yeah, praise be to God. I'm kind of focusing on what grabbed me was, woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. I don't know why that grabbed me, but just trying to tie it back to vocation and why what we do, we don't do it to earn money. And that's kind of where I'm going with that.
As an end in itself.
Right, yeah. If you're picking a job career based on how much money you'll make, or even that if that's a factor for you, well, it's a really good paying job, so I don't know that I'd really enjoy doing that for a long time, but it's a really good paying job, and I'm skilled in that area, so I'll do that. I just find that people get to the end of their lives or get into that and just think, I'm not really satisfied.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking Jesus' words that way. Woe to you who are rich, for you receive your reward. Is that if you're just out to get money in this world and get wealthy, I think you're going to find an empty road with that.
Sure. Someone's, don't remember who, said it. If you're not troubled after listening to what Jesus said here in the blessings and the woes, you're not listening.
Yeah.
It's a challenging words here that Jesus has for us.
Yeah, it gets all of us.
Yeah.
There's something in there for everybody. Yeah.
So were there any blessings that kind of spoke to you? Or
Not really.
Blessed are
I don't know. Jesus lifts up the poor. Well, what did you? Let me ask you that. What you had the men's Bible study. Did you find anything in that?
One of the questions we had was, what tone of voice do you think Jesus used in these blessings and woes? We talked about John the Baptist. We always imagine John the Baptist yelling.
Yeah.
Never in a whisper. always something commanding. And probably Jesus, when he overturned the tables in the temple, used a louder voice. He wasn't whispering at that time. But in these verses, is he just being factual? It says he looked up to his disciples and said. So the audience is a little bit smaller. Is there compassion in his voice? We just sort of played with that. We didn't have any conclusions about that. But just to ask, when you hear Jesus talk, what tone of voice is he using?
I've always heard it as a stern voice, but that could be because every preacher who's probably read it has read it in a stern voice.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
We make those interpretations, and it just seems
so
like...
be careful how you read it.
Yeah, we probably don't think about that enough. I mean, we're characterizing Jesus' feelings about whatever he's saying, and do we raise our voice, or do we speak it in a stern voice, or do we speak it in a meek voice or a comforting voice?
Yeah. There are some healing, when, not healing, but when Jesus is in the rear of the boat and it's being tossed by seas and they wake him up, and he speaks in a loud voice, be still. So there are times when you get
You got stage direction.
Yeah, you get stage directions. Or there's a time when he gets off the boat and he's deeply moved, and then he, heals and feeds, I think, the 4,000 at that time. So you do get some hints as to maybe how he feels. When we talked about blessings, Jesus names situations where we typically don't think there's any blessing to be had. I mean, they are unblessed situations.
Yeah.
And yet in that blessing, he's saying that precisely in those moments when it seems that God is not there, then in fact he is. I am. You could say that they are descriptive of Jesus on the cross. He dies in poverty. And even the clothes on his back are taken away. Yeah. He dies in hunger and thirst. I thirst. Yeah. And he dies not so much weeping and wailing, but there is, my God, why have you forsaken me? There is a sense of bereavement.
Sorrow.
And yet we believe there on the cross that God was most fully present. So,
and blessed are you when people hate you, they exclude you, revile you, defame you on account of the Son of Man. He experienced all that as well.
Yeah. The other one that connects with those blessings is the Magnificat, where Mary says, and he will lift up the lowly, and those who are in their high perches he'll be brought down. Sort of the reversal of circumstance. And if you put too much weight into your external circumstance, well, it may not be as satisfying as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's the upside down kingdom.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I'm going with my message. I think it's not as satisfying as you think it's going to be. And I'm getting there by talking about the game of life. Have you ever played that with the kids?
Yep.
That's been around forever and a day. It seems like you really, really like that game at some point in your life, and then it's like, okay.
So you get your youngest, is he kind of into the game of life right now?
Not yet. But our teenagers, they're getting into it, and buying life insurance and buying stocks and getting married and all that. But the point of the game of life is to get wealthy.
Right.
The object is to have as much money as possible at the end of the game.
Sure.
And that is the winner. And I think a lot of us look at life like the game of life, like the whole object is just get as much money at the end of your life so you can retire comfortably or have all you want and have the good life, quote unquote. But that, to me, I think you're missing the point. That's where Jesus comes in and says, woe to you who are rich. It's not that he's against rich people, but when we have more things, I don't know if you find this true, Pastor Steve, but I've found in my experiences with people all across the world and all across different sectors of wealth, when we have more things, we need less God. And when we have less things, if you're in war-torn Liberia and you're trying to flee that and get out with your life, you don't have any possessions, but you've got God and you've got enough. Or you go to South America or Central America, where they're very impoverished, but the gospel is spread heavily, or parts of Africa, our friends in Tanzania. It just seems like there's such joy in them, and they have such little possessions. And I don't know if there's a direct correlation to wealth and happiness, a reverse correlation, but boy, it sure seems like it. And I think if you spend your whole life trying to accumulate stuff and get rich, I was talking to my boys about this. We played the game of life on the snow day because I want to kind of revisit it. And one of my boys was saying, Dad, it's really a misnomer because if you feel like, well, once I have enough stuff, I'll be happy. Day's never going to come. Mm-hmm. So you're essentially going to live all your days unhappy, hoping that one day you'll reach this.
Always be one more thing.
Yeah, exactly. This mythical level of wealth or an accumulation that's going to, quote unquote, help you win the game of life. And to me, the game of life, the board game, is decided right at the beginning. You have a choice. There's a why. And you can either go to college or you can start a career.
Oh.
And if you go to college, then you pick 3 career cards, and you can pick the card that you pick will help you win the game right there. If you pick the highest profession, if you pick doctor,
Sure.
and you get a $100,000 salary in the game of life.
Yeah, that's an old game.
Yeah, it's an old game. As opposed
from
to
the 50s.
Right. As opposed to an artist who makes $20,000 in the game of life. Every payday, you're going to get further and further ahead. But so I always pick doctor if I get it. Mm-hmm. I always go to college, I pick doctor, and I always win the game of life. I know how to win the game of life. Just be the highest paid profession, and you're going to win. Mm. But do I really want to be a doctor?
I don't ask me because I can't stand the sight of blood.
Exactly. Then ditto. So that's my point is when we're considering our vocation, I don't want to say throw out money, but what is God calling you to do? Where is your heart being led? What skills has God gifted you with? And try to think about a career in that vein and not so much as what's going to provide for me and provide for my family and make sure I retire comfortably. I mean, that's an important component, I think, of our choices, but it shouldn't be the choice.
One of the questions in the devotion or the study talks about servant leadership is about leading or working with others so that the focus is not on yourself, but on the other person and accomplishing a shared goal or a greater goal. There's a kind of giving up or giving away of self-focus. So you might think that's servant leadership as opposed to achievement leadership. Or,
yeah.
Bill Hybels had that phrase of descent into greatness. There's that kind of giving away. In all vocations of life, when you've been in the presence of someone who has a sense of servant leadership. You know that when you're working with your doctor, and when they're a servant leader. Mm-hmm. I know that when I take my car in for repair, when it's not just simply, about the bottom dollar, but we're here to serve and to make a difference. You just know it. You know it when a repairman comes to the house to fix the plumbing or the air conditioner. You know it in all stages of life. Those people who it's not just simply about the one thing, but it is about how God can use me to serve and make the world a better place.
Yeah, I think that's a good distinction. And that's not so much as a career choice, I'm hearing you say, as more just kind of an
choice
attitude.
Of the heart.
An attitude towards life, a choice of the heart, kind of how you're going to view life. But I don't know. I think back to my days when I was going through those choices, and all I felt called to do was broadcast. And then I thought maybe as a side hustle, I would tell people about the love of Jesus, because I kind of felt that nudging as well. Mm-hmm. But I never once thought about how much money it's going to make. In fact, it was very, very bad. My first job was, I remember interviewing for my first job in television. This is 1998. And it was a small market in Kirksville, Missouri. They rank all the markets from 1 being New York City with the most amount of televisions to Los Angeles to Chicago on down to there's 210 television markets. This was market 199 in Kirksville, Missouri.
What's the bottom one? Alabama?
Yeah, Greenville, Alabama, I think was down there. But I remember going to talk to the news director, and my whole interview was he was just pitching the station, why I should come work there. And he got to the end, and he says, "Now, do you have any questions for me?" And he didn't ask me hardly a single question. He's just pitching me for a half an hour. Why I should come to it. I said, "Well, you like my work?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I saw your tape. You look great. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, what's it going to pay?" And he said, "No." Oh, he got real excited. He's like, "Now this is going to be great because don't tell the other news reporters this because I just went and fought with our brass about getting a pay raise. So you're going to be starting at $14,000 a year." No overtime. Now I said, what were they making? They were making $12,000 a year. And if you say no, then there's 100 more people that behind you that'll come and take the job. So it was just a very low-paying job until you get into the anchor ranks like the Beth Malickis and the Joe Winners and Scott Sables. They do okay. But right at the beginning, the entry, there's just no money in it. But I was happy, Pastor Steve. Mm-hmm. I was elated for the first 5, 6, 7 years of my career because I was doing what I feel I loved and I got to do that side hustle. I got to preach every now and then at Methodist churches I was a part of to share the love of Jesus. So I don't know. Maybe it's more about me and my autobiography this week than it is, but I don't know. And I don't think Jesus is saying all that in the Beatitudes. I realize I'm putting that on top of it. But I do think, why would he lift up the poor? And why would he say woe to the rich? I mean, other than if you take on face value, guys, life's not about money.
Yeah, I think it's also about how we see God in the world. And there's, as you say, the upside-down values of Jesus and the kingdom. And we tend to equate presence and the blessing of God specifically with certain kinds of social or material blessings. And we'll say, no, God was there. God has blessed you. And when illness or misfortune or persecution or something happens, then surely you're on the outs with God. Surely God has something against you. Why me, O Lord? And Jesus say, well, wait a minute now. Actually, God is precisely there in those moments of need. And it's not that God is not there in moments of blessings, but what we tend to do is we, as you say, I have the blessing and I don't need God.
Right.
So the blessing itself is somehow going to be the thing that satisfies or is meaningful. And Jesus says, yeah, go ahead. You have that blessing, but it's not eternal and it's not lasting. And even in this life, it can come, it can go. And beware.
I've always wondered how prosperity preachers handle the Beatitudes. Because they preach exactly what you're saying. If you pray hard enough, if you go to church enough, if you're a good enough person, if you believe enough, if you really believe and accept Jesus in your heart, then things are going to go your way. Then you're going to get that promotion. Then you're going to get that good health, and God will reward you the prayer. That prosperity gospel is going to come to you if you're just good enough. And so how do they read these Beatitudes?
You'll have to ask one. I'm a Lutheran. That's not how I look at it.
But that is our theology. It's the theology of the cross. Mm-hmm. There's a theology of glory that God will glorify you if you do well and pray hard enough. And then there's a theology of the cross that says our burden, our cross to bear are these things where people will persecute you and you may be poor and you may be weak, but that's where we find our strength. That's where Christ found his strength. This is where God found his strength, is God lowering God's self to become the lowest of the low, where he was spat on and kicked and yelled at and just everything. He was down, like you said, he was in poverty. He went to the lowest of the low so that he could grab us all and lift us up with God. That is the theology of the cross. So we descend down, we go down the ladder, descend into greatness. I like that. We go down the ladder and we're caught by Christ and he lifts us up. Yeah. We rely on Christ for everything and not our own selves and our own achievement.
Blessings and woes. So for a blessing, come on Sunday. Listen to Pastor Craig.
Sounds good. Or a woe, depending on where you're at.
Well, that is digging into the Word, and thank you very much, Pastor Craig.
It's time to pray our way through the week. This is First Lutheran member John Lepsey. I am delighted to pray with you and for you today for God's presence this week. God of surprising abundance, you call your people to enter deeply into the world. Equip us to respond to your call, gather up what we have, and offer it to all in places where we work and serve. Help us all to see our callings to our various lines of work as holy callings as we follow Jesus everywhere. God of creation, provide protection from the elements and other hazards to all whose work brings them outside. For fishers, ranchers, line workers, and construction crews. Guide us to live carefully alongside the wonders of the land and waters. Open the hearts of all leaders, especially those who serve in the armed forces, that they respond to their commission with wisdom and patience, ensure that all who serve are kept safe in body, mind, and spirit. We pray for an end to all war and armed conflict. Fill with your compassionate presence all who are suffering from addiction, mental illness, injury, or illness of any kind. Draw helpers to their side so that they find relief from their burdens. Call our faith communities to do marvelous things. Bless the labor and efforts of this congregation, that we may be a sign of your presence in the world. We entrust our prayers to you, O God, in the sure and certain hope that your promise is revealed among the people. Amen.
Thanks so much, John, for those prayers, and thank you to Pastor Steve for being with us today, too, to talk about the Beatitudes of Jesus, some real strong words from Christ, letting us know that he is with us through all things. I hope you feel Christ's presence with you this week, no matter what you may be going through personally. Also want to thank Ellen and Henry Mueller for being with us and talking about our Growing Young initiatives. So looking forward to our young people presenting at 1 o'clock this Sunday at our annual meeting. Everyone is welcome to come hear them. It'll be very encouraging and invigorating to hear what our youth and their ideas for how we can continue to grow young as a congregation. Thank you for being with us this week. We appreciate you making the effort to tune in and be with us. Hopefully you'll stay warm out there and feel Christ's presence with you this week, no matter what challenges you are going through, that you know that blessed are you because Christ is with you. We'll talk with you again next week. Until then, remember to put your faith first.